Hi, this is Matt with AppliancePartsPros.com. Today we'll be showing you how to repair your appliance. Remember, anytime you work on an appliance, make sure it's unplugged or the circuit breakers are off so there's no chance of electrocution. In this video we're going to show you how to change out the Maytag dryer drive motor. It's going to be a very easy repair and should only take a few minutes to show you how to do it. If you already have one of these, great. If not, you can click on the link below or get it at AppliancePartsPros.com. When you open up the package, you're going to get the instructions, the wiring connectors, and the new drive motor. The drive motor is what drives the drum in the dryer. The main reason to be changing it out is if it's shorted out and it's not driving the drum. In order to get to the part, we have to open up the dryer. First thing we're going to do is use our Phillips screwdriver and remove the 4 screws that hold the door and the front panel on. The screws on this side hold the door in, so once we get these off, we'll lift the door out and set it aside. Now that you have the screws out, we can lift the hinges out. You have to lift up a little bit and then pull out. Then we can set the door aside. On this side we have to take out the screws and the hole covers. Once we get them out, you can just set them aside. To get the front panel off, all you have to do is grab on each side and carefully pull it out so the clips release, and then you can lift it off the little retaining brackets on the bottom. Once you have it off, you can set it aside. With the front panel off, we can remove these 2 top 5/16 screws. There's one on each side. Once you pull them out, we can take these brackets off so we can lift the top up. Once you have the screw out, you can just lift the bracket up a little bit and then swing it out and take it off. Now we can lift the top up and very carefully set it against the wall so it's supported. Before we take off the big screws that hold this frame on, we're going to use our 1/4" nut driver to take out the 2 on the bottom that hold the frame to the blower housing. There's 3 screws on each side. The ones with the cutout we're going to leave. On this side it's on the top, on the other side is the bottom. So we're going to use our 5/16 nut driver and take them out. Now that we have all the screws out, we can lift this frame off very carefully. There's a seal in there, make sure it doesn't come off. If it comes off, you can just press it back on around the opening. And then we have to reach down with a small screwdriver and disconnect the 3 wires from the door switch. Sometimes they're on there tight, so you can use a small flathead screwdriver. Remember where yours go. On our dryer, there's a blue and white one here, a gray one in the middle, and a double red one on the top. Once you have the wires disconnected, you can just set the wire harness down and put the frame aside. Next, we can disconnect the wires from the light bulb. It's on the right hand side of the dryer in the front if you have one. Some do, some don't. All we have to do is pull the wires off. You don't have to remember where they go because they're different sizes and you really can't mix them up. Then we have to release this clamp right here and lift the wires out. Once you get them out, you can just let them drop down so we can pull the bulkhead out. Directly below the light switches, there's 2 wires. Not all models have the dryer sensor, but if you have these 2 wires, you have to pull them off before we take the bulkhead out. And same thing with all the others. You can get a small screwdriver in there and pop them off if it's tight. Now that we have the wires off, we're going to use our 5/16 nut driver again to remove these last two screws so we can pull it out. As you're taking the second one out, you want to put your leg or your hip against this bulkhead so it doesn't fall off. Now that we have the last screw out, we can lift the bulkhead out and set it aside. To get the belt off, we're going to reach in and take it off the pulleys. We're going to grab the idler pulley with our left hand and pull it to the outside of the dryer so we can get the belt off the pulleys. Now that we have the belt off the pulleys, we're actually going to use it to guide the drum out. So you can lift up on it and guide the drum through these cutouts. Once you have it out, you can set it aside. Now that we have the bulkhead out of the way, we can take the cover off the blower housing. We're going to remove all these screws with a 1/4-inch nut driver. Now that we have all the 1/4-inch screws out, we're going to use our 5/16 nut driver to remove this bottom one that holds it to the base plate. With all the screws out, we can lift the cover off and set it aside. You want to swing it over so you don't pull any of the wires off and just set it aside. Now we can reach in with a snap ring pliers and take off the snap ring. If you don't have a snap ring pliers, you can just use a small screwdriver to very carefully pop it off. All you have to do is stick the snap ring pliers in the holes and squeeze it just wide enough to pull it off the shaft. You don't want to bend it and stretch it. Now we can reach in with our pliers and grab the spring clamp. All you have to do is compress it enough so you can pull it off. Once you have it out, you can reach in and pull the blower out. If you notice that this blower is wobbling a lot, or if this D shape is rounded out, you may want to go ahead and get a new blower just in case. Now we can reach in with our snap ring pliers and take off the ring in the back. Now we can take off the motor wiring terminal block. There is a release on each side. All you have to do is squeeze it and pull it off. Once you have it all the way out, you can just set it aside. Next, we can remove the motor clamps that hold the motor in. There's one in the front and one in the back. We're going to take a big flathead screwdriver and get down on this lip right here and press down and then turn it out to release it. Once you have one side unhooked, you can just lift it out and set it aside. The back one comes out the same way. With the clamps off, we can reach down and lift the motor out of its cradle. Once you have the back up a little bit higher than the front, you can slide it back so the shaft comes out of the blower housing. Here's the old drive motor next to the new one. If you already have one of these, great. If not, you can get it at appliancepartspros.com. Now, if your old motor and your new motor have the same type of connection switch, you don't have to do anything with the terminals. But if you have the older style where the wires were connected individually to the motor switch, then you're going to have to follow this second page of instructions and use the wire terminals to connect it to the new style switch. And it'll give you directions for gas or electric and which wires to connect and where to connect them. So if you have that old style switch, remember you have to follow that second page of instructions and make sure you wired in correctly. So we're going to feed the motor in through the blower housing carefully and turn this so your notch is right here on the top, almost at 12 o'clock, but more like 11 o'clock or so. And then once you have it in there and the back motor mount in, you can just rotate it until the switch is on the top. Now we can put the motor mounts back in. The motor mounts go on the same way they came off. We're going to hook one side onto the mount and then line it up so this tab is right in the middle. And then we're going to use our big screwdriver and just press down on it. Once you have the back one on, we can put the front one on. With the motor mounted, we can reconnect the wire harness. All you have to do is line it up and press it down so it locks into place. Now we're ready to put the blower housing back together. We went ahead and cleaned off all the lint off the thermostats and out of the blower housing, so make sure you do that too. Now we can put on the rear snap ring. All you have to do is stretch it enough so it goes over the shaft. Now we can put the blower wheel in. The motor has a D-shaped shaft, so we want to match up the flat here and the flat on the motor and push the blower back in. Now we can put the spring clamp back on. We're going to grab it with our pliers and rotate it over so it goes over the blower and holds it in. Once you have that in place, we can put the outer snap ring on. We're going to use our snap ring pliers to put this ring on. All you have to do is line up the little pins and get them through the holes. Once you have it on there, we can put the snap ring back onto the shaft. Next, we can put the blower housing cover back on. To put the cover back on, all you have to do is lift it up and swing it back over. Watch out, make sure you don't get any of these wires caught in there. And once you have it lined up and in place, we can go around and put the screws in. Now we can use our 5/16 nut driver to put in the one on the floor. Now that we have everything reinstalled on the blower housing, we can put the rest of the dryer back together. To put the drum back in, you're going to lift it up and guide it back in place with the belt, just like when we took it off, and set the rear of the drum on the rollers. The belt should have a groove or a wear mark so you can see where it went. You want to set it down on that same spot with the grooves against the drum. Now we can put the belt back in. We're going to reach in with our left hand again and pull the idler pulley over so we can route the belt through the pulleys. To put the bulkhead on, you want to line up the blower housing seal and then slowly rotate the bulkhead up. You may have to lift up on the drum a little bit to get it to go in. Once you have it in place, we're going to use our leg again to hold it in place. We line it up and get the bottom screw on this side to hold it in. We're going to use our 5/16 nut driver to put that back in. Now we can put the one in on the other side. You want to lift up on the bulkhead a little bit and line it up. And then we're going to use the nut driver to put it in. Now you can grab the wiring harness out and we can reconnect the wires. The double blue ones without any plastic on them were the ones that went to the moisture sensor. These don't matter which one go where, so just go ahead and plug them back in. Then we can grab the blue and the gray one, though they go up to the light socket. So we're going to route those up through here and put them in the clamp. And then we can plug them into the socket. Remember, they're two different sizes, so you can't mix them up. The blue one goes on the bottom, the gray one goes on the top. Now we can put the frame on. Before we put that on, remember we have to reconnect all the wires to the door switch. So on this one, it was the blue and the white one in the back, the gray one in the middle, and the double red one on the top. Now that we have the wiring harnesses connected, we can swing the frame around and put the screws in to hold it in place. Now that we have the screws in to hold the frame on, we can use our 1/4-inch nut driver to put the screws in that hold it to the lint screen housing. Now that we have those in, we can lower the top down and put the brackets in. To lower the top down, all you have to do is swing it up and into place. And you may have to pull out this way a little bit if the hinges aren't perfect. Then you can put the brackets back in to hold it down. Remember to put the brackets in, all you do is put them up into the hole and rotate them over and set them in place, and then we can put the screws in. Now we can do the one on the other side. Now we can put the front panel back on. The front panel goes back on by setting it on the 2 brackets at the bottom that you lifted off of earlier. And then you can rotate it up and snap it in place, making sure that these little clips go into the holes in the frame. Now we can use our Phillips screwdriver to put the screws back in that hold the hole covers on. Now we can put the door back on. To put the door back on, all we have to do is line up the hinges so these little tabs go in their slots. And push it in. Make sure you get both the top and the bottom one in. Once you have them both in, we can use our Phillips screwdriver to put the screws in. Now we can close the dryer door, plug it back in, and take it for a spin. Thanks for joining us for another successful repair brought to you by AppliancePartsPros.com. Check out our other repair videos on our site, Facebook, and YouTube.